You weren't born to shrink yourself for someone who couldn't even handle your light. So stop texting, stop crying, stop begging to be seen. When you were born to be unforgettable. Darling, listen to me loud and clear. Begging for love is the cheapest thing a queen can ever do. You are not built for discounts. You are built for destiny. How many times have you lowered your standards just to be accepted? How many times have you over-explained your worth just to keep someone who didn't even deserve a second of your energy? Let me say something that will hurt, but also heal. If you have to beg to stay in someone's life, you already don't belong there. We were taught to hold on, to try harder, to fix things. But nobody told us, the one who loves you doesn't need fixing. He chooses you every day, loudly, proudly. You're not supposed to chase a man like a lost girl, begging for attention. You're supposed to walk like a woman who knows. Her silence is louder than his apologies. You may think staying will earn you love. You may believe trying harder, explaining more, being nicer, will convince them to care. But let me tell you a truth most people run from. The more you beg, the smaller you become. The more you leave, the louder your worth echoes. Let's be real. In life, how many times have you sent that paragraph hoping they'd finally understand how much they're hurting you? How many times have you replayed their words in your mind, wondering what you did wrong, just to keep someone who barely even notices when you're silent? That is not love. That is survival. That is the quiet death of your self-respect. Look around. The world doesn't reward the ones who beg. It rewards the ones who own themselves. Think about that one friend who kept going back to a man who only called her when he was bored. She changed her clothes, changed her tone, changed her plans. For what? To fit inside a man's limited idea of. And what happened? He didn't stay, he didn't grow, but she shrank. Every single time. Begging turns lions into lambs. And queen, you weren't built to beg. You were built to break patterns. Leaving is power. Let me say that again. Leaving is power. Because leaving is not giving up. It's growing up. It's choosing yourself in a world that keeps asking women to be less loud, less opinionated, less demanding, less emotional. Leaving is a quiet rebellion where your silence becomes your roar. Imagine this. A girl working in a toxic office where she's constantly overlooked. Every idea she brings is ignored until someone else says it. She keeps trying. Longer hours, extra tasks, people pleasing, just for them to maybe, hopefully, see her. But one day, she stops. She updates her resume, walks out without a dramatic goodbye, and lands a job where her voice isn't just heard, it's valued. That's not just a career win, that's a spiritual win. She stopped begging, she started owning. She walked, and that changed her world. You don't rise by chasing validation. You rise by realizing you don't need it. Think about the most iconic women you admire. The ones who seem magnetic, untouchable, glowing from within. Do you think they got there by begging someone to love them right? No. They walked away from anything that dimmed their light. And that's when the world started to watch. We've been raised on stories where women wait for love. But this is your reminder. You're not Cinderella. You don't need a shoe to fit. You need to stop fitting into shoes too small for your dreams. And sometimes, leaving that fairy tale is what makes you a legend. Begging always comes from fear. Fear of being alone, of being unloved, of being forgotten. But the day you walk away from what is breaking you is the day you walk into everything that builds you. That's not just self-love. That's divine rebellion. There's a woman out there crying in her car after being ghosted. There's a girl staring at her phone, waiting for a man who isn't even thinking about her. There's a mother, a sister, a queen, slowly becoming invisible while begging for crumbs of attention. And to every one of them I say, the moment you stop begging and start leaving, the world shifts. The energy shifts. And suddenly, you're no longer asking to be chosen. You are the choice. You're not whispering your worth anymore. You're walking in it. Because a woman who begs is forgotten. But a woman who leaves, she becomes unforgettable. You don't heal in the same place that broke you. That's not just a quote. It's a survival code for your soul. Because pain is not just about what happened. It's about where it happened, who was there, and how it made you forget your own worth. You can't rebuild your confidence in the same room where it was shattered. You can't find your power in the same arms that made you question it. Healing requires distance, not just from them, but from the version of you who stayed. Think about a woman stuck in a relationship where love feels like walking on eggshells. Every day, she apologizes for things that aren't her fault. She says sorry when she cries. She says sorry when she speaks too loud. She says sorry for simply existing in a way that's inconvenient for him. But she stays, thinking maybe tomorrow he'll understand her heart. Maybe if she's more patient, more forgiving, more silent, he'll change. But what she doesn't see is this. Every second she stays, her soul forgets how to breathe. And no matter how many times he says, I'll do better, the environment itself is poison. Healing can't happen there. Because nothing grows where you're being watered with lies. Even flowers die in sunlight if the roots are poisoned. Your environment matters. Your energy matters. And sometimes, love isn't enough. Especially when it's soaked in control, silence, and manipulation. You can't breathe new air if you keep inhaling the same smoke that choked you. Look at a girl who's been stuck in a toxic job. Her ideas are overlooked. Her passion is dismissed. Her energy is drained day by colleagues who laugh behind her back and bosses who never see her potential. She keeps trying, thinking if she just works harder, someone will finally clap for her. But what she doesn't realize is that no amount of effort changes a system built to ignore her. The pain is not hers to fix. And the healing, it's waiting outside those walls, where her voice isn't just heard, it's amplified. You don't heal by staying silent in places that made you feel invisible. You heal by walking out and saying, I deserve to be seen. That's not weakness. That's revolution. That's the moment your future self will look back at and say, that's when she came back to life. Now imagine a woman who was in a friendship that was secretly breaking her. The kind of friendship where her wins were met with silence, her pain with gossip, and her loyalty with jealousy. She thought they were her sisterhood. But every time she shined, they dimmed the room. Every time she trusted, they twisted it. Yet she stayed, because they've been there forever. But listen, time doesn't equal love. History doesn't equal loyalty. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away from what's familiar to find what's safe. Because the same hands that wounded you will never be the ones to wrap you in real comfort. The same voice that broke you will never be the one to restore your peace. His comfort is not your responsibility. Read that again. His comfort is not your responsibility. You are not born to cushion his ego, to silence your truth so he can feel like a man, or to shrink your power so he doesn't feel insecure standing next to it. That's not love. That's emotional labor dressed up as devotion. And too many women have been trained to mistake sacrifice for strength. You are not his therapist, his mother, or his emotional punching bag. You're not his soft place to land when he throws storms your way and suddenly expects peace. You're allowed to say, "I'm not okay," without being told you're too sensitive. You're allowed to want more, speak louder, feel deeper. And none of that means you have to abandon yourself just so he feels okay. Let's talk about her. The girl who constantly walks on emotional eggshells. The moment he's upset, she folds. The moment he withdraws, she chases. She starts hiding her needs because he's going through a lot. She overcompensates, changing her behavior, tiptoeing around her own emotions, all because he might get uncomfortable. And what does she get in return? Silence, disinterest, a version of love that only shows up when it's convenient for him. And there's nothing romantic about raising a man who refuses to grow. When you prioritize his peace over your pain, you're teaching yourself that your feelings are less important than his mood. And that's not noble. That's emotional self-neglect. You don't owe him the luxury of your silence just to avoid an argument. You don't owe him the sacrifice of your dreams just so he doesn't feel threatened. You don't owe him your softness when he's made a home out of your boundaries and then called it love. Imagine a woman in a relationship where every time she brings up her needs, he accuses her of starting drama. He tells her she's too much, too emotional, too demanding. So slowly she learns to mute herself. She says nothing when he forgets important dates. She forgives too quickly when he disrespects her in public. And she tells herself, he's just going through something. I need to be patient. But the truth, she's not being patient. She's being erased, one unspoken word at a time. Being empathetic doesn't mean being emotionally exploited. You can support someone without losing yourself in the process. You can love deeply without playing the role of savior. Your job is not to rescue him from himself. He is responsible for his healing, his growth, his reactions, his past. And you, my love, are responsible for your peace. Because if every disagreement ends with you apologizing just to make him feel better, if every moment of discomfort ends with you swallowing your truth, then you're not in a relationship, you're in emotional captivity. Let me tell you about the woman who finally snapped out of it. She stopped explaining herself to someone who never listened. She stopped chasing closure from someone who only communicated when it was about his needs. She stopped being his emotional crutch. And in doing so, she found her voice. Her life changed not because he finally stepped up, but because she finally stepped away. You are not cold for choosing yourself. You are not heartless for refusing to babysit a grown man's emotions. And you are not cruel for wanting a partner, not a project. When a man truly loves you, your strength inspires him. It doesn't threaten him. Your truth moves him. It doesn't silence him. Your independence attracts him. It doesn't make him uncomfortable. So no, his comfort is not your responsibility. His healing is not your burden. His insecurity is not your assignment. You don't have to become less just so he feels like more. And any man who demands your silence to feel powerful was never worthy of hearing your voice to begin with. Leaving is a flex, not a failure. Don't let anyone, not society, not your friends, not even your own guilt, trick you into believing that walking away means you gave up. Leaving doesn't mean you were weak. It means you finally remembered your worth. Staying in a place that drains you just to prove you're loyal is not strength. That's self-destruction in disguise. And you don't owe anyone your slow death for the sake of looking strong. There's this woman, let's talk about her. She stayed in a relationship for years, not because she was happy, but because she was scared of what people would say. She gave up too soon. She couldn't handle a real relationship. But every night, she cried herself to sleep. Her smile was a mask. Her confidence was on life support. But she stayed because walking away felt like defeat. Until one day, she looked in the mirror and said, I am not a prisoner. I'm not here to survive love. I'm here to be celebrated, not tolerated. And just like that, she packed her dignity, left her tears behind, and reclaimed her life. Tell me, is that failure? Or is that freedom with heels on and her head high? We've been trained to clap for women who endure, who stay, who suffer quietly, and call it maturity. But where are the celebrations for the women who leave, the ones who choose themselves, who walk away with shaking legs and shattered hearts, but still walk anyway? A woman who leaves doesn't lose. She leads. She sets the example for every girl who thinks settling is the only way to be loved. Leaving is the most powerful thing a woman can do in a world that teaches her to endure pain in silence. Because it says, I refuse to beg for love that should be given freely. I refuse to stay where I have to fight just to be seen. Think about the girl stuck in a job that suffocates her soul. She gives her everything, works overtime, misses family dinners, birthdays, even her own health, and still she's overlooked. Her boss praises others, steals her ideas, and she tells herself, it'll get better. But it doesn't. So one day, she types that resignation letter, turns off her email, walks out of that office, and breathes. I'm not staying somewhere that survives off my silence. She didn't fail. She leveled up. Or take the girl who's constantly the friend who gives, the one they call when they need something. But when she needs someone, it's crickets. She plans birthdays, shows up with gifts, listens through everyone's chaos, but nobody checks on her. She feels empty, invisible. So she starts saying no. She stops chasing, she unfollows, blocks, distances herself. She chooses peace over performance. And people say she's changed. No, she woke up. She realized she's not a supporting character in everyone else's life story. Leaving is a flex because it means you've healed past the need to prove your worth through endurance. It means you've outgrown the version of you that stayed small for the comfort of others. It means you love yourself enough to say, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive. You're not a failure because you chose freedom. You're not broken because you walked away. You're just done pretending pain is a badge of honor. You're just done letting guilt disguise itself as loyalty. And you're finally giving yourself the love you kept begging others to give you. So when they ask, why did you leave? Don't shrink. Don't explain. Just smile and say, because staying wasn't worthy of me anymore. And that right there is the loudest kind of power there is. Your energy is your currency. Spend it wisely. Every second you invest in someone is a transaction. Every moment of attention, every conversation, every emotional reaction, it's a withdrawal from your personal account. The question is, Are you spending it you'll see a return? Or are you throwing it into emotional black holes and calling it love? You wouldn't give all your money to someone who never pays you back. So why are you giving all your energy to someone who drains you and then disappears when you need refueling? Think of that girl who wakes up every day already exhausted, not from lack of sleep, but from carrying everyone else's weight. She listens to her toxic friends' endless problems, the same ones over and over again, but when she speaks her truth, it's dismissed. She answers his calls at 2 a.m. because he's confused, but she's the one left spinning. She shows up for everyone, yet when she needs a hand, it's quiet. She's bankrupt, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, but still giving, still apologizing for not being enough. That's not kindness. That's self-betrayal. Your energy is your aura. It's your time, your thoughts, your attention. And in this world, that's more valuable than gold. People want your energy because it's powerful. It lights up rooms, fixes their moods, makes them feel whole. But the truth is, not everyone who feeds off your light deserves to sit near your fire. You don't need to entertain conversations that leave you empty. You don't need to respond to every message, fix every problem, or carry every burden just to prove your worth. You were not born to be available to chaos. And you are not obligated to sacrifice your peace just to keep others comfortable. Let me tell you about the woman who learned this the hard way. She was always the strong one, the go-to, the emotional anchor. But every time she stood tall for someone else, she shrunk a little more inside. Until one day she snapped. I'm not your emotional dumping ground. I'm not your plan being with limits, with dreams, with a soul that deserves rest. That day, she stopped giving access to people who didn't value her presence. That day, she started protecting her energy like a diamond. And here's what happens when you do that. When you start treating your energy like royalty, your peace returns. Your circle gets smaller, but it becomes sacred. You attract people who give as much as they take, who pour into you instead of just drinking from you. You start to feel whole, not because the world got easier, but because you stopped leaking your power into places that never deserved it. You know that friend who only calls when she needs something? That man who only shows up when you've already moved on? That coworker who drains you with gossip and bad vibes? You don't need to hate them, but you do need to protect yourself from them. Set boundaries like velvet ropes at a VIP entrance. Not everyone gets in just because they know your name. Your energy is sacred. It builds empires. It heals people. It manifests dreams. And when you spend it carelessly, you bankrupt the most important part of yourself, your spirit. Don't let people overdraft your soul. So here's the reality. You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing too much for people who do too little for you. You're not broken. You're just surrounded by people who keep breaking your energy into pieces. Spend your energy like it's your last breath. Protect it like it's your legacy. Because one day you'll realize the most expensive thing you ever owned wasn't your house, your car, or your clothes. It was your energy. And every time you wasted it on someone who didn't value it, you gave away your power. For free. The real glow up happens after goodbye. Not the fake glow up for Instagram. Not the kind where you pretend you're okay, but cry when the camera's off. I'm talking about that deep, undeniable, soul-level transformation that hits different. The one that doesn't just change how you look, but how you walk, how you speak, how you carry your worth without needing validation. And it only comes after you say goodbye to what was breaking you. Some women think their glow up is in a man choosing them, in being the one he finally settles down with. But hear this. Your glow up begins the moment you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing yourself. It starts when you stop waiting for a text and start responding to your own dreams. You want the real glow up? Leave the table where respect is no longer being served. Let them wonder where you went. There was a girl who stayed in a relationship that dimmed her light. Every time she shined a little, he reminded her to be humble. Every time she laughed too loudly, spoke too confidently, wore what made her feel powerful, he called her too much. So she started shrinking, she turned down her light just to fit in his shadow, until one day she whispered a goodbye that shook the foundation of her old self. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was final. And that's when the glow up began. Her skin didn't just get clearer, her soul did. Her peace got louder. Her presence became undeniable. Because when you leave what kills your light, you become untouchable. You see, goodbye isn't weakness. It's the final act of self-respect. It's not about being bitter. It's about being better. When you walk away from chaos, you walk toward clarity. When you stop chasing people who run from you, you start attracting people who move toward you. And the world notices. Think about the girl who left the job that made her feel invisible. Every day, she gave her best, stayed late, worked weekends, sacrificed sleep. And every day, she got overlooked, underpaid, dismissed. She thought leaving would make her a quitter. But the moment she walked out, opportunities opened like floodgates. She started her own thing. She found a team that respected her voice. She didn't just get a promotion in life. She elevated her identity. That's the glow up no paycheck can buy. Or the girl who used to cry over friends who never celebrated her wins, who clapped louder for strangers than for her. She always showed up, always gave, always forgave, until she stopped. She cut ties, said goodbye to the drama, took her peace back, and guess what? Her energy shifted. She started glowing, not because her life got easier, but because she removed what was dimming her from the inside out. This version of me is unavailable to anyone who made the last version feel unworthy. The real glow up isn't loud. It's not about revenge. It's not even about proving a point. It's when you look in the mirror and don't see the girl who was once broken, betrayed, or belittled. You see a queen who built herself from the rubble. The glow up posts. It's in the silence, in the healing, in the nights you cried alone and still chose to rise. So next time they ask where you went, smile and say, I didn't leave, I upgraded. Let your peace be your power. Let your success be your silence. Let your evolution be so loud that they can feel your absence more than they ever appreciated your presence. That's not just a glow up. That's a rebirth. You are not made to shrink for anyone. You were not sent here to beg for love, to water yourself down, to sit quietly in corners where your worth is overlooked. You were born to stand tall, to rise loud, and to walk away from anything that makes you forget your own name. And if that makes you too much for someone, baby, go be too much somewhere else. Because somewhere out there is a world waiting for every inch of your power. Remember this. The woman who walks away doesn't lose anything. She reclaims everything. Her time, her voice, her glow. You want to know what real confidence looks like? It's when you stop asking, will he come back? And start saying, even if he does, I've already moved forward. You want to know what real peace feels like? It's when you no longer flinch at silence. When your solitude becomes your sanctuary. When your heart beats for you first, not for someone who couldn't hold it with care. People will always try to tell you your value, but their opinion doesn't define your reality. They'll say, you'll never find better, just to keep you small. They'll try to guilt you with, you've changed, as if growth was something to be ashamed of. They'll show up when you glow, but never when you grow. And that's okay. Because you're not here to prove anything to anyone. You're here to protect your peace, guard your grace, and walk like you already know you're the prize. There's a reason God let them walk away. There's a reason the door closed. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. That goodbye you cried over, that was divine intervention. You asked for peace, and peace doesn't come where chaos is allowed to stay. You asked for love, and love doesn't bloom where your soul keeps bleeding. So yes, the goodbye hurt, but it healed. And that healing is the beginning of your new becoming. Let the world feel your absence. Let them wonder how you glow even when you walk alone. Let your silence be louder than your explanations. You don't owe anyone closure when you've already given them chances. You don't owe anyone softness when they've handed you stone. From now on, let your worth speak before you do. Let your energy enter the room before your voice even arrives. You're not just a woman, you're a revolution. The most powerful move you'll ever make is walking away with your head high and your heart whole. That's not weakness, that's elegance. That's power wrapped in poise. That's what happens when you choose you fully, unapologetically. The woman who learns to leave is the woman who finally learns to live. So protect your energy like it's gold. Walk away like your peace is non-negotiable. Glow so loud